everybody, and welcome to the official Day 2 coverage of the Curious Realm here at Stairway to the Stars at the fabulous Luxor in Las Vegas, Nevada. We are here with Ronny LeBlanc, host.
How you doing, brother?
Doing great, man.
Good to see you.
Pleasure to finally meet you.
Yeah.
We have been Facebook friends for a long time. We both belong to a lot of the same communities. You're the author of 2 different Monsterland books, and you're also the host of Expedition Bigfoot.
Yeah, I do Expedition Bigfoot on Discovery, and then Paranormal Caught on Camera on Travel Channel.
Yeah, awesome. Now, how is it that you first came to the world of paranormal and cryptid studies?
Well, I had an interesting experience when I was young, about 12 years old, in Leominster, Mass, in Monsterland, with something that I couldn't see, almost like the Predator from Predator movie. And it was something that was hard for me to kind of compute and try to understand what I experienced. And it went into my subconscious for decades until I started reading more about this idea of some of these beings having the ability to cloak. And so we started to experience this out in the field, talk to people that had experienced this as well. And so that just got me into UFOs and Bigfoot and just try to devour everything I could on that subject.
Yeah. And you guys at Expedition Bigfoot specifically have gotten some amazing stuff over the last couple years.
Yeah.
It's been pretty remarkable to kind of fly on the wall and watch things. I watch the show here and there whenever I'm on the road, that kind of stuff.
We captured cloaking in season 3. We had gone back to a location in Washington State in the Olympic Peninsula where we had found some great evidence. Our cameraman Zach saw something running. We found footprints. So it was great. We went right back to this location, but we started having activity. We had a river between us and a cliff about 50 to 60 feet tall.
Yeah.
And every time we continued to work down this river, rocks would be falling down. And at one point, it was like this avalanche. And Dr. Moray and I both turned with our flashlights. There's nothing in front of us, and just like a shadow puppet.
Wow.
There was a shadow of a Bigfoot on the wall, walking across, and I could see hair in the shadow. There was a reflection of the shadow in the water.
Interesting.
And what was really weird is that, that reaction was based off my action saying, "Show yourself. We know you're up there," and this thing appeared. However, the network edited that out.
Oh, wow.
I always thought that was peculiar because it's basically stating that they understand us.
Yeah.
They can hear us, or the intention or what have you. And that was another big moment for me and for the show where I felt, okay, I'm trying to bring the woo up front. You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to do.
Absolutely. And I've been talking a lot about the woo lately on my show, mainly because, the last year, quantum entanglement won the Nobel Prize.
Spooky action at distance.
Absolutely. And the fact that things, despite distance, can influence each other. It opens up a whole world.
Right.
And even right now, the UFO, UAP disclosure, things like that, have opened up huge conversations into all of this. And
they're talking about, in Congress, David Grush, transmedium, interdimensional kind of stuff. And it's like, holy crap.
Yeah, and intended calling forth of things as well.
Right.
And one of the things I've questioned on my show, especially with instances like that, is I am a firm believer that there is a hominid species in America, in South America, in numerous places across the globe. I don't know. I hold a different thought when it comes to the cloaking and portals. I'm one that thinks that maybe this is another entity that is using a trope in our mind that we would be comfortable with.
Sure.
And it's one of those, just another hypothesis put out there.
Well, you think about how many species of birds there are, right?
Yeah.
So the idea that there could be a multitude of different types of Bigfoot, and some of these could be more alien than they are animal. That's definitely something that seems to be popping up more and more.
Oh, we discover at least a couple thousand species a year. Even during COVID, during the lockdown, there were 1,000 species discovered.
Yeah, 18,000 every year, they say, with insects, and it's incredible.
Exactly, and one of my favorites is, especially whenever I'm talking about Bigfoot, cryptids, I typically take the map of the United States at night from like a picture from the ISS at night. It's so you think that, we'd have seen it by now, huh?
Yeah.
Let's take a look at how much black there is. because this was taken like 8 years ago, and about 3/4 of the United States is just black. It's just black, like unsettled. Nobody's living there. You know, when you talk about the Pacific Northwest, you're talking about forests so deep that planes get lost and they can't find them.
Exactly.
You know, and even the idea of why haven't we found a body? Why haven't we found
bodies? Yes.
You're pretty hard pressed to find a full skeleton of a bear. Once something dies in the woods, it's a rapid process of predators,
displacement,
things, all kinds of stuff. So the fact that we haven't seen one, I don't doubt one bit. But there is some amazing evidence coming out right now. Allele oils, stuff like that. Oils from handprints, face prints. Some really great new techniques being used.
Yeah, and when we were in Kentucky, our second expedition, we had this. I was telling Dr. Maria about these structures, and she was trying to. What did they look like? Well, we stumbled upon one at night. When she hit it with the light, she knew what it was. So the next morning, we went back and we're looking for footprints and everything else and other evidence, hair. So we took eDNA sample from the soil, environmental DNA, and we sent it to the lab at UCLA, and it came back unknown primate. And they tested it again, and it was like, okay, it's unknown primate running around in Kentucky.
Wow.
And there's legends of Daniel Boone killing a Bigfoot, which was called a Yahoo, out there in the Cumberland Gap. A lot of stories, a lot of history, and people are that we talk to are like, they're out here, they're here, we see them, we hear them. You know, so they seem to be everywhere.
And you know, one of the concepts that I heard this last year at MUFON was three-dimensional objects cast a two-dimensional shadow. Fourth-dimensional objects cast a three-dimensional shadow. And if you're talking about Bigfoot, Sasquatch, anything like that, being possibly a higher dimensional being, something like that, it would highly explain the ease with which they disappeared, cloaking, things like that. So.
And I've seen, you know, in Salt Fork State Park was myself and 3 other individuals that we witnessed the glowing eyes, these orange eyes. And originally it was just one ball of light moving around in the forest. And when I threw a rock in there, because I was thinking it was somebody messing with us, it split into 2 eyes and formed a shadow and started rocking back and forth. And that was one of the most intense experience I had.
And not eye shine.
No, glowing,
and
like emitting light.
And that is a distinct difference that has been said in numerous sightings, is that this was not eye shine.
Correct.
This was like phosphorescent light inside of the eye.
Yes.
It's pretty remarkable. Amongst all of your experiences out in the field investigating, what's the one that sticks with you most, Ronnie?
I would say the one that was really cool was when we were in the Redwood Forest and I decided to meditate. We found an area where I felt like it was like almost a border. You walk into the spot, you're in their backyard. So I started meditating for about 20 minutes or so, and I felt a presence to the right behind us. And I said, okay, I think there's one here. There's something that is just kind of... So we start walking down the trail, going further into this area, and here comes a rock. We walk a little bit more, here comes another rock. Coming right from the same spot where I said there's some weird energy coming.
Wow.
So once the third one hit, I want to see if this happens again. And I just kind of pushed it, and then a third rock came, and we're like, okay, sorry, we'll back up. We won't go any further. And that's one thing I wish that I had gone further. I wish I had pushed it a little bit more and poked the bear, so to speak.
All right.
So that's one of those moments that I wish I could replay it and redo it again.
Now that brings me directly to another topic that I talk about pretty regularly on my show, and that's how do you encourage people to go out and investigate? What kind of methods do you advise them to use? Do you advise them to poke the bear?
No, I don't. I don't. One thing I will say is, go out in the woods and don't expect anything, but go out there to engage with nature and just be observant, be respectful, and you'll maybe experience something. And if you go to an area that has a lot of activity and sightings, then you want to kind of get your mind right. If you're going in there with a gun hoping to shoot something, you're probably not going to encounter one. But if you are projecting with your thoughts, peaceful and everything, you might have some interaction. And people that have, I don't want to call them hippies, but more spiritual, they seem to have more interactions with Sasquatch than other people. So there definitely seems to be some kind of spiritual awakening or reconnecting with nature when you have these encounters.
Yeah.
So
awesome, man. Your work is absolutely amazing. I love the show. I cannot wait to read the books.
It's
been a pleasure having you on
Chris.
the show.
Appreciate it.
Look right there in the camera. Let everybody know where they can go to follow your work, where they can go to buy books, all that kind of stuff. We'll, of course, be adding these to our store as well.
Fantastic. Yeah, so this is the first book, Monsterland. The second one, which gets into shamans and high strangeness and synchronicity. But if you go to RonnyLeBlanc.com, I try to have all my events and talks up there. I've been doing a free library tour in Massachusetts.
Oh, cool.
I did about 50 libraries this 6 months, and I'm trying to do another set and just get people that necessarily won't maybe come to these type of conferences.
Yeah.
But they'll come to a free event to sit down and talk and listen about this.
Yep.
And so it's a way for me to interact with people that maybe I wouldn't normally encounter.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for all your work in the field. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you,
Keep
Chris.
up the good work.
Thank you, man.
While you are online checking out everything from Ronny LeBlanc, folks, make sure to stop on by Curious Realm. CuriousRealm.com is where you can find all of the episodes. That's where you can like, follow, subscribe. It's where you can buy all the books from our guests as well. Stay tuned through these commercial breaks. We'll be right back with our continuing coverage of Stairway to the Stars here in Las Vegas, Nevada, right after this.
See you guys.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Curious Realm's continuing coverage of the Stairway to the Stars conference here at the fabulous Luxor in Las Vegas, Nevada. We have the pleasure of sitting down with Hayley Ramsey right now. She's the author of The Bringer of Life and also tour guide all over the world for all kinds of esoteric and various adventures. How did you first come into the realm of researching the feminine divine and symbology?
Well, actually, from the time that I was a child, I was always very fascinated with the legends of King Arthur and the Holy Grail. And of course, there's the divine feminine Grail Maiden aspect to it, right?
Sure.
And so growing up, I lost my dad when I was 19, and when he passed, he had no real requests for his ashes. But I wanted to get into his genealogy, and I found a lot of interesting symbols that tied in with my previous research into the Holy Grail and the Knights Templar. And so once I started recognizing these symbols that I had seen in my other research, I thought, okay, there's something going on here. So I decided to go to Scotland to spread some of his ashes at the family estate, the castle that our ancestors came over from. And so I went and spread the ashes there, fell in love with some of the sites, and decided I wanted to do more research. And so I went and spent several months, and now I spend 6 months a year there doing research into these mysteries and esoteric stuff. And that's just really how I got into it, essentially with my family and my dad. But before, I had always been really into Arthurian lore, Grail lore, and so it all fits and weaves together.
Yeah.
It's all very interconnected.
Well, and you know, that is the theme of a lot of this conference, is the interconnected way in which all of these things work, whether it be UFOs, paranormal, even esoteric things like Knights Templar and symbology, because the symbology that the Knights Templar used, they didn't come up with most of it. They adopted it from other cultures, esoteric cultures like the Egyptians, Kabbalah studies, things like that they ran across throughout their journeys across the world, everywhere from Turkey to Egypt to India. It's pretty phenomenal whenever you start looking at that.
What's important to remember also, within the Knights Templar tradition, they practice what's called monotheistic dualism. So they revere the Godhead as both male and female, and all of their chapels were dedicated to the goddess of Christianity, who is either the Virgin Mary, Mother of God, or Mary Magdalene.
Mary Magdalene. Yeah, exactly. And even when you start especially looking at Rosicrucian teachings, things like that, about the idea of Mary Magdalene bringing the bloodline of Christ to Europe. It's pretty interesting when you start getting into that stuff.
Oh yes, and of course there's what we called in Scotland the Grail families, and some certain families, including the Ramseys, my clan, the Sinclairs of Roslin, of course, the Seatons and the Lindsays and a few other different clans used to have monthly clan meetings at Roslyn Castle. And these are believed to all have been the descendants of the Grail family.
Wow.
So it's a Grail family meeting every month that supposedly took place at Roslyn Castle.
Wow. Now, Roslyn is especially Roslyn Chapel in France is one of my...
In Scotland.
Is it Scotland? I'm sorry. It's fascinating to me. I'm a musician. I do all kinds of music therapy, and I don't know if you've ever had a chance to listen to the Roslyn Motet.
Yes.
But it is a remarkable piece of music, and to know that they even were aware of cymatics and of the patterns that frequencies made.
Yes.
Is pretty remarkable.
Well, I believe Roslyn was initially created to be a repository of information where important documents were stored, where important mysteries and traditions were stored. Even with the architecture, they're preserving certain stories in stone. And so that's part of the initiatory tradition. With the goddess, they veil her in a lot of these things because only those with the eyes to see are meant to see them.
Well, and even when you look at ancient temples, things like Minoa, even into ancient Greece at Epidaurus, things like that, the ancients had a wide, vast knowledge of frequencies and audio and how to tune audio. When you look specifically at Templar buildings, Templar chapels, things like that, they have very specific acoustic properties, even whisper qualities that are almost like whisper dishes where you can stand on opposite sides and talk in a normal voice, and it's like you're directly next to each other even though you're hundreds of feet apart.
Oh, they were absolutely bringing back the technology and the architecture that they were learning in the Holy Land and using it in their buildings and their newer cathedrals. And it's important to note, too, that when they built sites like Notre Dame, they built it with the two towers. And that is symbolic of the letter M, or the shape of the M, which is the symbol of a woman with her legs up in the birth-giving position. So when they built Notre Dame and other different cathedrals that were built in the same style, this was actually an ode to the goddess. And if you look at the front of it, you see sacred geometry worked into that to represent the female genitalia. So when you'd be walking in to the church, you'd be walking into the womb of God to be born again when you leave.
Absolutely. Everything was woven with symbology with them, and even their deep dive into alchemical studies.
Yes.
The fact that they even now have just found in the last few years how they made the color red in their stained glass by using nanoflakes of copper, like copper nano. How did they know about nanoparticles to begin with and how to make them, much less embed them in glass to make very specific colors, like the color red?
Yeah.
So.
Well, speaking of red, the crosses on the tunic that they would wear, the red crosses, were actually another ancient symbol that they adopted from a far earlier civilization. You actually see the Anunnaki, some depictions of Anunnaki, you see them having a red equilateral cross on their regalia, which is really fascinating because that goes to show that symbol is something so much more ancient than just the cross the Templars wore.
Yeah, or being tied to a singular monotheistic religion.
Yes.
And of course, that is some of that esoteric teaching because it wasn't practiced by all Templars. Not all Templars were initiated into the esoteric rites. Not all of them were high enough up to be part of the secret rites in that way. But that is part of why the King of France kind of turned them in, aside from, not helping oppress a group of people and taking their money to pay off the king's debt. But that is definitely what led to the church's involvement with their persecution, was this esoteric knowledge, and even the fact of the Mary Magdalene and the lost bloodlines, things like that.
Right. Well, they were getting too close to the truth. They were recovering all of these ancient texts and pieces of history that the church really would not want anybody else, especially their followers, to have access to. I mean, documents that talk about the goddess wisdom, that talk about Sophia being the consort of God, all these Gnostic stories, and even much more ancient information going back thousands of years. They were the keepers of that knowledge, and that was a threat to the church.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, let's fast forward to now, and my bad. Thanks, man. I got it.
Oh, it's dangerous there.
Yeah. people can also fully look in front of them while they walk.
Yes.
I kind of do this for a living. It's a pretty normal thing at conferences. Epic.
Sorry about that.
It's not your fault. So, fast forwarding to now, and your work, especially with the tours that you do to esoteric sites, things like that, how do you break this down to average people?
Break what down,
Well,
essentially?
there's a lot of esoteric knowledge involved with not only the building of the locations, but with the history behind these things.
So typically on the first night of our tour, I will give a presentation to the group and kind of set the ground, I guess, not ground rules, but I'll set the stage for what I'm going to be talking about and kind of explain how all of this connects with what we're seeing in the following days. And that way I can try to give them little tidbits of information that make sense, give them things to look out for as they're journeying on this trip with us. And usually when we get there, I'll reiterate and explain again. And on the bus, I'll give some background information as we're driving there and really try to just feed enough information that it's still exciting, but not too much.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, before we let you go, let everybody know where they can go to purchase your book, and also where they can go to register for your tours.
Yeah, so the book is best bought by me if you contact me via social media or email. My website is currently under construction, but will be up soon.
All right.
And I will sign it for you if you order it from me there.
Fantastic.
And then as far as the tours go, so same thing. Email is the best way to contact me, and I can get itineraries and all the information out to them. And that's the best way.
Well, thank you so much for your time during
You're
this very
welcome.
busy Stairway to the Stars conference.
Yes, absolutely.
I greatly appreciate it. And thank you so much for all your hard work. I cannot wait to tear into this and see all of the amazing information in here.
Perfect.
Thank you so much. While
You're
you are
welcome.
online checking out everything from Hayley Ramsey, everybody, make sure to stop on by Curious Realm. CuriousRealm.com is the website. That is where you can like, subscribe, share. That's where you can find the books from all of our guests, as well as their YouTube channels to subscribe to them. Stay tuned through these messages. We'll be right back with our continuing coverage of the Stairway to the Stars conference right here in Las Vegas, Nevada. Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to the Curious Realm's continuing coverage of Stairway to the Stars here at the fabulous Luxor in Las Vegas, Nevada. We are here with Jason Quitt right now. He is the author of Egyptian Postures of Power, as well as Astral Genesis. He's here doing a presentation on his work for Astral Genesis this week. And we had a chance to sit down at dinner last night, and just looking at some of your research and what you have gone into is absolutely phenomenal, man. The way that you peel back the literal layers of connection between various cultures, their symbology, and the connection between that and sacred geometry.
Yes.
How did you first get into this field of study, Jason?
I first got into this study through out-of-body experiences, to tell you the truth, and that took me into the paranormal, took me into mysticism, took me into shamanism, healing, sacred geometry. So I've been doing this. I've had my first out-of-body experiences when I was about 22 years old. So that's around 2002.
Oh, wow.
So
were they purposeful and intentful out-of-body experiences, or were they something that just started happening to you?
they were something that started to happen to me based on sleep paralysis.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So
Because I actively started trying to do astral projection and things like that, and sleep paralysis was part of my problem. That's like where things ended for me frequently, was waking up, not being able to move, things like that. So interesting.
That's what it happened to me without me trying. It was like a sleep problem. And I would wake up in the middle of the night, everything's frozen, my mind's awake, I'm like trying to wake up, I can't. And I started to have paranormal experiences in the sleep paralysis state. And I started to feel like something in the room with me. Walking around, sitting on the bed. Sometimes it would climb up and you'd be suffocated. Feels like you're being crushed. And I got so frustrated one night that this was happening that now you have to remember something started happening to me in the sleep paralysis. It felt like my body became the sarcophagus. Like my body was the tomb, and I had another body inside my body.
As though it was a literal husk.
It was a literal husk.
Wow.
And I could actually like move. I could felt like this other body inside of me was able to like move around.
Interesting.
And one night I was just like trying to get out so badly to wake up. Like I wasn't thinking out of body experience.
Yeah.
I was thinking wake up Jason. You know, so I'm trying to wake myself up, move an arm. And I shook so hard I popped out of my body. And it was just like a near-death experience. Like I found myself above my bed, looking down at my body, and that dose of reality just hits you. And then I noticed at the foot of my bed was a very tall shadow being. And it scared the crap out of me.
Yep.
I was so scared because it's like, I thought I'm dead. I died.
Yeah.
This is real. This is reality. There's the Grim Reaper. I'm out of here. And it got sucked back in my body, woke up, heart pounding. And ever since that door has been opened, that first experience, I found myself being able to put myself into sleep paralysis.
Wow.
So it's like my body will fall asleep at night, the body will be frozen, and then I can start moving that other body around, pop out and have those experiences. So that is what led me on this kind of spiritual journey.
Okay.
And, you know, things change.
Yeah.
Once you start doing this. I started to get visitations from different beings. I started to get communication from different things.
Wow.
It's like you're opening up to another world. And that other world is starting to see you as well. It's like, oh, this one's awake, just like Neo waking up in the Matrix.
Absolutely. And now, interestingly, I don't suffer sleep paralysis much anymore.
Yeah.
But from what you're saying, you are basically using sleep paralysis as a modality for yourself. That is fascinating to me because most people I know who practice astral projection, deep meditation, things like that. Like that's the part that they're trying to avoid, Jason. Is the sleep paralysis part.
Well, that's because it's called sleep paralysis, and that's not what it is.
Yeah.
What it is separation of dimensions. So what's happening is the physical body is now entering into sleep mode. And when the body enters into the sleep mode, it shuts down. It goes into paralysis. Yeah. So that's what happens naturally.
Yes, it does that so that you don't flail and hurt yourself, so that you don't fall out of bed.
The issue is now you're aware. So now your consciousness is aware of the process of turning the body off, and it starts freaking out because it doesn't like being not in control of the body.
Yeah.
But what's happened is there is a separation. So in that space, and we can call it the hypnagogic space between waking and dreaming, in that tiny space, that is the space of the astral. That is where you have access to the astral world, and the astral body then awakens. All right, so that mind of yours that's screaming to wake up out of the sleep paralysis is actually the mind of the astral body. All right.
Okay.
So using that mind, it is you.
Sure.
Using that mind
in the purest sense, it's you.
You kind of will yourself or roll yourself out of your body. And this is where my contact experience in my early 20s started. And, at first was insane. Like, it's hard to get into that. It's I call it like astral time travel.
Yeah.
Like being taken out of your body and like going through portals and things.
I did dream work for a long time, going to sleep with intention, things like that.
Yeah.
Once again, trying to have the astral experience. it was either sleep paralysis or the feeling of falling.
Yeah.
One of the two would happen, and I would be jerked out of it. And it's very hard to get past that. It's very hard to break that mental barrier and understand that, like, what's happening right now should not be a moment of panic. This is a natural moment, you know?
Yeah, and this is the secret, is that when you enter into the sleep paralysis state and you feel your body like numbed out in that meditative process or sleep process, the first instinct you have is fear and to fight that.
Yeah.
You actually need the complete opposite. You need to allow that to fully take over.
It is truly one of the only times where your brain goes into all three modes of emergency: flight, fight, and freeze,
yes,
all at the same time. And it's normally hard to overcome one of those when it happens, but when they all three occur at the same time,
right,
it can be very, very overwhelming. Absolutely.
And that's the problem. So we have to do the complete opposite and to just kind of allow it. And it's almost like this warm blanket comes over you, so you get this like really warm feeling. And what I'm describing is literally what people describe as going through death as well, because it is like the little death of life.
Sure.
And then once that vibration takes over you fully, what happens is you have that separation. So the separation of the astral body happens after that stage. After that warmth comes in, you pop out.
Yeah. So at what point did these sessions of yours and connection to the astral plane start leading into the world of sacred geometry? And when did that start being revealed to you?
Well, first it started with simple messages, which were, before you go further into this world, you need to heal yourself. Because they said that that world is inhabited, that world has some danger to it, and the way that my energy body was at that time was very weak. And they said because my energy body was weak, I could bring back attachments, entities. I could get these attachments that become parasitic. And they said over time, it can cause illnesses, it can cause suffering, and shorten my lifetime. So they said the only way that I can continue on this path is I have to learn how to heal myself. And that's where my path led me into the Egyptian postures and sacred geometry, because our physical body is sacred geometry in the purest form. We follow the structures of nature. And by learning about the body, how it moves, how energy moves through it, you're consciously using your body to control or manipulate your energy body.
Absolutely. And that tie between the two, especially the tie between sacred geometry and our physiology to begin with. Once you start breaking down ratios, angles, things like that, like there is a ton of sacred geometry. Even whenever you look at Da Vinci's Man, as a prime example of that.
And the whole thing, and Da Vinci showed this in his artwork, as he put the circle and the square around it with very specific proportions to show you that not only was the physical form following the sacred geometry, but he also hid solar geometry in there, earth geometry in there, lunar geometry in there. And he showed how every single one is connected to the physiology of the physical body. So we are a reflection of the stars, of the sun, of the moon, of the earth. And by understanding that we're set up in the same thing, we can tap into all of these things.
And quite a bit of your stuff in Astral Genesis starts getting into a lot of these angles and a lot of these sacred geometry points, especially once you start looking at solar circles, things like that, symbols that have been used cross-culturally across continents culturally.
Yes.
It's pretty remarkable when you start seeing the similarities not only between the images, but between the angles used in the images that represent things like the distance of the Earth to the sun, the tilt of the Earth, all kinds of things.
I have no idea how they figured this out. They were very smart.
I have no idea how you figured this out, because these are images and things that researchers have been talking about for decades.
Yes.
Decades. And yes, they have been tied together. Like, this is strange that these people on this continent and this continent use the same symbology.
Yes.
You know, at least a version of it. But when you start breaking down the actual angles of the images,
yes,
and they are exactly the same, it's phenomenal.
Yes, so that's the discovery, is that I was looking at hieroglyphs, artifacts, architecture, petroglyphs from all over the world, and I noticed that they were following a very specific motif, a sacred geometry motif that captured the angles, the ratios, the distances of the sun, of the tilt of the Earth, and all of these things were incorporated into the sacred science of these symbols. So this is a key that's been hidden for thousands of years, going all the way back to the most ancient cultures of Göbekli Tepe even.
Yep.
And they all contain these ratios, these angles, describing our connection from our physical body to the sun and the earth.
Yeah.
And the stars, and the cycles of the stars. So when this clicked and I found the code, I had to stop everything and I had to write the book just so that I could publish it and start talking about it, because I was so excited I would have just spilled the beans.
Yeah. It is once again a phenomenal realm of revelation. Just our conversation last night, what I've had a chance to go through and read today, just cursorily at the booth, things like that. Absolutely incredible information, Jason. And for you to be revealing this right now, especially with all the research shows that are going on, all the things that work like Graham Hancock, stuff like that is out right now, showing the connection of these ancient civilizations, to see not only how these angles, how these images were used by them, but how they are carried forward even into today.
Yes.
I mean, the 23 degrees, things like that, that is the exact proportions that, you know, the Masons use in their symbology, all that kind of stuff. So it tracks right up to the esoteric movements of the Middle Ages and today and beyond.
Yeah, it's right in our faces.
Yeah.
Like even the cover, I put it on the cover, the angles.
Yeah.
Because it's right in our faces all the time, but we don't understand that language.
Yep.
And what this book is trying to do is not only teach you the language, but teach you why they chose to do this language.
Absolutely.
And the mysticism and the secret teachings that came into the mystery schools, why is it even there?
Yeah.
Because it goes back to this relationship to the stars.
Absolutely. And even right here, whenever you're talking about, you know, the seal of Isis, the feminine god, right here in the middle, you've got the big letter M. Like, that is exactly what the Knights Templar used for the sacred feminine, for Mary Magdalene, Mary, everything else. So all of this stuff tracks through everywhere. It's amazing.
This cover I designed because it's an Easter egg.
Yeah.
I put so many secrets just in the cover.
Amazing.
From learning the language of the ancients.
Absolutely amazing work. Let everybody know where they can go to get your books. I mean, I will, of course, I want to add these to the Curious Realm store so our readers can easily find it, but where can people buy your books? Where can they catch up with your research, watch videos, things like that, Jason?
I'm easy to find. I'm on Amazon, so you can find these books on Amazon. If you look up my name, Jason Quitt, you can find my talks on YouTube. Very easy to find. And if you want to go to my personal website where I have crystals, books, and other things, it's thecrystalsun.com.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much for your time.
You're
Things are
welcome.
bustling again. I'm going to let you get back to your booth. While you're online checking out all of the amazing information from Jason Quitt, everybody, make sure to stop on by Curious Realm. CuriousRealm.com is where you can find all of the episodes. That is where you can like, follow, subscribe, share. That's where you can find our bookstore with all of our guest books, as well as our videos page where you can easily follow all of our guests' YouTube. Stay tuned through these commercial messages. We will be right back with our continuing coverage of the Stairway to the Stars conference right here in fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, right after this. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Curious Realm's continuing coverage of Stairway to the Stars here in Las Vegas, Nevada. We are here with none other than the indomitable voice of not only Ancient Aliens, but Oak Island.
Yeah, the Curse of Oak Island.
Robert Clotworthy. How are you doing?
Good, fantastic. Wow.
I have followed your work for so many years. You have one of the most sultry voices in the business, my friend. As someone who has worked in broadcast and done voiceover, I absolutely adore your work. You would do a fantastic job with narration of both of those shows.
The check is in the mail. You'll should be receiving it next week.
My first question for you is, are these fields of study or interest that you had before you started working on these programs?
Yeah, I don't think that any of us, if we're sentient human beings, and looked up at the sky at night, looked at the stars, hasn't wondered whether we are alone or not.
Yeah.
You know, that's why in the show when I say we are not alone, we have never been alone, it's something that I think resonates with a lot of people. It certainly resonates with me, absolutely.
Yeah, interesting, because, you know, I know many people who are voiceover artists, hey man, like, you're hitting record. You aren't necessarily into the content, you know, but...
You know, it's interesting because when I first started doing Ancient Aliens, it was a subject that interested me. I had read Chariots of the Gods, Eric von Daniken's book, when I was in junior high school.
Sure.
So I had like a little bit of a knowledge of what was out there. But as we've dug deeper into it, and the show's become more and more popular, it has piqued my interest, and also I understand that the public has really resonated to the show. So I need, and since I am the voice of the show, it's inherent to me to be, to take the job seriously, to be present, to be there, to give it my all, and to be curious about the information that's out there. When I go into the studio, I don't get the script in advance. I don't want to see the script in advance. I'm really good about getting the words off of the page, but the reason I don't want to read the script in advance is because I want the information that's coming out of that script to affect me.
Yeah, you want the actual emotive feeling of
if something's surprising, I go, oh my goodness, this is incredible. I can't wait to tell people about it. So that is part of, I think, naturally that comes out when I do the show.
Oh, absolutely, and that translates most definitely through the screen. The actual genuine surprise of some of the information. And I love the fact that you don't go through and read and reread your script before you go through, because it can make it very mechanical.
Oh, it's processed, it's mechanical, takes all the magic out of it.
Absolutely. Now, Oak Island, that is one that my wife, not so much the Ancient Aliens fan like I am, but she has deep dived and really gotten it. Like, she's an Acorn man. Like, she is an Oak Island lover. And it has been interesting to see how that show has actively spawned so much interest in various, I mean, everything from Knights Templar research coming forward, all kinds of things.
Yeah, it's, we get close to 3 million people tuning in each and every week to that show. Wow. It's somehow it's just connected with people. I think part of it is that we've all wanted to find treasure. As a little kid, you go out there, you explore, you're looking for treasure. There's something about that I think is just part of our DNA. And then you add to that the Lagina brothers, they're serious about this. This is a dream that they've had since they were little kids. Yeah. And they're all in, and they're able to do this on a scale that we could only imagine. Yeah. It's not like they have unlimited resources, but they have the resources to really go big with it. You know, it's like go big or go home. Well, they're going big. And you add to that the element that they have to work together.
Yeah.
They have a great chemistry between them because they are brothers. They have to solve problems. They fail. They succeed. It's a great metaphor or great example of what life is all about. So people that watch this show, I've had people come up to me and say, I hope they don't find anything because my kids are learning so much.
I keep telling people all the time in the communities, they're like, oh, they ain't gonna find any gold. I'm like, I think you've missed the gold they already found. Like, they have already changed the history of the local area,
absolutely.
the island. Everything has been to the point that local native populations told the government, whoa, hold on, we need to stop everything and reconsider stuff.
Yes, they have to go through the proper channels. If they find something, even if it's underwater, they can't like pick it up.
It is an all-stop. It's an all-stop, and people do not realize some of that. Some of the actual intensity that goes into just make a 30-minute episode, an hour-long episode is a week or so of recording. Absolutely. And even once again, the research that has been found already, the proof that has been found, lead going to Templar mines, all kinds of things. It's absolutely, but that is the gold. That's the gold. Whether they find buku treasure or
you know, the joke. What I joke when I go into the studio, I look to see if anybody is wearing like a golden crown because I know if they're wearing a golden crown, that they found the treasure.
Hey, where'd you get those 8 new rings?
And I joke. I say if they find the Ark of the Covenant, I hope it's going to be kind of like the Stanley Cup, where everybody gets to keep it for a day.
You come in and like the TV in the office is just sitting on top of it, so it's nondescript.
Or you'll come to one of these conventions like we are today, and I'll have the Ark behind me. Oh, I just get it for the day.
$5 a can.
Don't open the lid. Whatever you do, don't open the lid.
God, don't touch it. I just had to come by, get you on tape, because I mean, once again, I have loved your work for years and years. For someone like me, you're an absolute inspiration to the field of voiceover work, things like that.
I had an agent told me once, even a blind squirrel will find an acorn every once in a while.
That's right.
So,
you have found millions of acorns, my friend.
Thank you.
That's the beautiful thing, is that because of the openness of people like you narrating things like this, and even approaching the material the way that you do, that is what draws people in.
If I wasn't on the show, I'd be a fan of the show. So I look at it that way. I mean, I'm seriously invested in it. It's not like they just pay me a check and I go and do my thing and leave. No. I treat every session as if it's my first day on the job, and I'm thrilled and excited to be there. And whenever, like on Ancient Aliens, when I say ancient astronaut theorists say yes, I know the audience loves to hear it. So I kind of take a moment. I go, okay, this is for you. So people, if you're watching Ancient Aliens and I say ancient astronaut theorists, say yes. That's a little wink and a little kiss from Robbie to you.
Fantastic. Robert, thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Greatly appreciate your whole body of work. Before we let you go, look at the camera, let everybody know where they can go to follow, where they can go to find all your content.
Instagram, you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, which is now called X. So I'm everywhere. I'm out there. But more importantly, watch the shows. Continue watching it. If you want to get updates, follow me on Facebook, on X, and I like posting information on what's happening in the show.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time during this very, very busy Stairway to the Stars conference. While you're online checking out all of Robert's amazing work, everybody, make sure to stop on by Curious Realm. CuriousRealm.com is where you can find all the content. That's where you can follow channels of our guests. That's where you can buy our guests' books, items, things like that. Stay tuned through these commercial messages, everybody. We will be right back after this with more amazing content from Stairway to the Stars 2023 right here at the Luxor in fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, right after this. Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to the Curious Realm's continuing coverage of Stairway to the Stars here in Las Vegas, Nevada at the Luxor. We're here with
Joshua Sisler, yes.
So sorry about that.
That's perfect.
Let me do that again. 3, 2, 1. Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to to our continuing coverage of Stairway to the Stars. We're here with Joshua Sisler of Ancient Atzlan, and you have an amazing array of actual artifacts here from pre-Columbian times that show all kinds of alien ties to them. How did you first come into this field of study?
Well, I've been working with crystals for over 12 years. So I've been a metaphysical teacher, and I've hosted workshops. Even for the Galactic Alignment, I hosted a Crystal on Ascension workshop in Chichen Itza on December 21st, 2012. So we've all been part of the Conscious Awakening. And I believe it was almost like an initiation into the realm of these sacred artifacts. Maybe I was tested by the Crystal Guardians for how I work and channel information. But yeah, around 2015, these artifacts were introduced to me.
And once again, you have hundreds of artifacts around us. What is the history behind these?
So the history is, these sacred relics are being found in a sacred little town. I like to say un pueblo mágico, right? It's a magical little town in central Mexico. And these stones are carbon dating back to roughly 8,000 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, and they're encoded with information. We have everything. There's probably 30 different topics around this, anywhere from serpents to UFOs to tablets to elongated extraterrestrials, right?
To actual engravings of DNA.
You call
things
it
like that.
Yes, Sumerian, everything, right? So we're gonna probably rewrite history when we validate this topic,
And once again, this stuff. Do you mind if we show one real quick?
Oh, please do. Yeah.
Some of these things, folks, are absolutely phenomenal, and all hand carved, hand polished stone.
Yeah.
Let's get into, because some of these even, once again, have Anubis and things like that on the back.
Yeah.
It's remarkable to see things from other cultures being represented in the Americas.
You bet.
So, I'm sorry, I'm speechless, because it's still overwhelming, the amount of things that you have. What are some of the things that you have gleaned from this?
They are encoded with information. And I don't know if we want to call it sigil magic, but similar to when you look into the Magical Egypt series, how there's information that's been encoded into the artifacts of Egypt, right? We look into the Ram Sphinx of Karnak and how the actual goatee of the Ram Sphinx is actually a hidden depiction of the brainstem itself. And the purpose of the brainstem flushing cerebral spinal fluid into the ventricle of the brain that houses the pineal gland.
Yeah.
So it's actually encoded with information that actually is meant to activate our consciousness. And I think that even the visual codes represented on these artifacts are, even from accessing the visual glimpse of them, can activate your endocrine system. Maybe even just by seeing the symbols, we get activated. Maybe it brings a sense of awareness to that location of the brain.
Yeah.
We don't completely understand why it is that these things activate us the way that they do. But similar to how crystals activate us, I feel that they hold a vibration.
Absolutely.
And they may also hold a visual code. So there's two different ways I feel they may activate us.
I am a huge believer in the use of crystals. I rarely travel without one in my pocket.
Got one in my pocket
I've got
now.
one right here. I give them to friends because I know they need a friend.
Yeah.
And to hear that same connection coming with this.
Yeah.
What have these artifacts taught you? How have they changed you personally?
Wow. Well, it's a complete divine passion. They've driven me with a sense of purpose now, and I feel like it may take lifetimes to completely unlock the information that's encoded within these. So they've literally reactivated me,
Yeah.
And I believe, I was activated by these for a reason, because I didn't want to lose my passion for this metaphysical world, right?
Yeah.
And so these artifacts may have found me for a reason to reactivate me, give me a new sense of purpose in this life.
And you've actually decoded quite a few of these, cleaned up the images, and put out a book. I purchased the book. The artwork is absolutely awesome. I love it. How can people use these images to better understand their place?
Wonderful. Well, I think that the book I created, it is just purely symbols.
Yeah.
What I did is I studied over 150 different stone tablets, and I believe that the information is so important that we need to see it, right?
Yeah.
And so I created a visual archive of imagery that we could literally look through page by page, and we can start to decipher what is being told through imagery, you know, because the hieroglyphics themselves are so ancient and archaic. We're looking at a carbon dating of over 8,000 years. So we're looking at a forgotten, lost hieroglyphic system.
Absolutely.
And so it's going to take many different stone tablets to create the Rosetta Stone to completely unlock the hieroglyphic system.
Sure.
But when you look at the imagery, right, that you see on the actual tablets, those are being told almost in a comic book-like scene, which we don't need to be able to decipher the hieroglyphics to try and decipher what's being told through imagery.
Absolutely.
So that's why I focused on the images, because in all reality, you can use your own preference to look at these and say, well, I think that this is what they're trying to tell us.
Well, and even to go back to why the cultures use the images, 90% of those people were not able to read.
Yeah.
They didn't understand the counting systems, things like that, but they did understand the sacred symbolism. They did understand what the representations of their gods and what they were doing meant.
Yeah, I think that is an important thing to look at too. You know, who could understand the writing system in that timeline.
Yeah.
You know, and that also gets into, you know, the high priests and the magi's of Egypt being the ones of authority who basically had slaves and other beings that they didn't know how to access the high levels of consciousness because the information was almost hidden from them, but in plain sight.
And when you take that one step further, even into the exodus of the Israelites from Egypt, the founding of all of that, and the idea of the high priests and how that became a locked system.
Yeah.
You know, same way as it was in Egypt, where if you were not part of the magical elite, if you were not part of the priesthood, this was not given to the common man.
And I think that's maybe why this is also important to share with the world. You
Absolutely.
know? We don't feel that we are higher than anyone. You know, we are all one collective consciousness, and I think that might be one of the reasons why you know, I was initiated to do this work in the first place. You know, when I access information in the metaphysical world as a metaphysical teacher, I never you know, held that information high. I gifted it to
privately.
everyone. I would. Exactly. I didn't keep it private. I would actually share genuinely to everyone. You know, and I didn't pick and choose who I was going to activate.
Well, and that is probably the most important thing in the world with research is the open access to information. That is what blocks so much, is when things get buried, when things get archived back on a shelf, and when people do not have access to things like this.
Truly.
When I saw you guys setting up yesterday, and hours after you were set up and manning the booth, more things were coming out, and more things, and more things. It's like, the panoply of artifacts that you have is just tremendous and amazing. And the fact that you are actively working on a museum right now for all these. Let's get into that a little bit.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, so, you know, in divine time, this will happen. We're working with some funders that we aligned with at Burning Man, and they're going to be opening up an alien museum in Brooklyn, New York. Yeah,
awesome.
And I'm going to be hand drawing all of the diagrams for every one of the pieces as well. And so it's really a passionate project for me, you know, and it has been about almost 2 years in the making, of course, you know, to get access to something like this. But they had to rent out the whole basement of a high-end hotel, so it's going to be in the artistic district of Brooklyn, New York, and they've already, you know, they covered the lease and everything for the building, so it's happening.
That is awesome. What an incredible blessing to all of this knowledge and to be able to pass it on.
And it did take a unique group of people to even want to be able to house these because of the topic of what they are they authentic, and all of this. But you know,
it's hard. It's hard. Yeah, and you know, especially when you're talking coming up against our archaeological societies, things like that, it can be very hard to get people to want to back that. So the fact that you have is a beautiful, beautiful thing, man.
Yeah.
Your work is voluminous and amazing, and I cannot wait to see what you do with it, Joshua.
Honor.
Before we let you go, let everybody know where they can go to find out more about Ancient Atzlan.
Wow, wonderful.
And where they can go to see pictures of all this.
Yeah, well, I'm going to give you one of my cards, you know.
Amazing.
But this is, if we can get close and you can see, it says, "Welcome to the Star Tribe."
Epic.
But at ancientatzlan.com. And that's ANCIENTAZTLAN.com. cryptid.com.
Absolutely.
And yeah, it's an amazing archive. We're working on it right now. We just got the website up and running, so it's going to be a work in the making.
Awesome.
But yeah, it's going to be exciting because we do hold one of the largest visual archives, and it takes a lot of time to get it all documented.
Yeah, and to properly archive it, make sure it's ready and available and everything else.
Yeah.
Man, I want to thank you so much, not only for the time, but for your incredible work here.
Oh man, I appreciate
Thank you so much. While you are online checking out all of the amazing work of Joshua and Ancient Atzlan, make sure to stop on by Curious Realm. CuriousRealm.com is where you can find all the episodes. It's where you can like, follow, subscribe. It's where you can find the books and videos for all of our guests. Stay tuned through this commercial break, everybody. We'll be right back with our continuing coverage of Stairway to the Stars here in Las Vegas, Nevada, right after this. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to our continuing coverage of Stairway to the Stars here in Las Vegas, Nevada. We are here with Anthony of Fabric to the Universe. You're actually one of the people who works with Ancient Atzlan finding these amazing, amazing artifacts. How did you come to work with them?
Well, I met him through the internet, actually. I seen one he was offering, and I asked him if I could join his team, and he would just happened to be doing a documentary trip a month later, and he said you could join my team. For $3,000, you could learn everything about this, meet my connections, and go to the portal and actually find these things. I couldn't believe it. I didn't think it was real. I was like, I cannot believe this. And I dreamt about it all night, and less than 12 hours I sent him the money. I just met him over the internet, and I sent him the money, and I did all the preparation work I could, to get ready to go join this team.
Was this something that you were already studying, or?
Yes, I had been studying. I was obsessed with crop circles prior, and I did art installations for 6 years. I built this traveling temple, and I brought it to 33 different festivals. People could sit inside of it, and it changed colors, and it was geometry and crop circle based. And I brought it to 33 festivals over 6 years of time, and then. I loved making art. I did it for the ancestors. I used to do a lot of DMT, actually. So the DMT spirit world kind of guided me to do that. And so eventually I wasn't doing for myself. Like I was doing too much for the spirit world, I feel like, and I was giving myself out to these festivals, trying to provide a sacred place for people to go into a night and become friends, and magic things would happen. And but eventually I became in debt, and I had to stop making art, what I love to do. And for 2 years, I got back, I focused on myself and got back to my life. And then he popped up into my life. And then once I went there and I met him at the hotel, and I touched one of these stones for the first time, and it just activated me. And so after that trip, when I got home, the first thing I did, I wanted to make art. Just art, and I've been making art for 5 years ever since.
Beautiful.
And I have dozens and dozens of masterpieces. This is an example of one that I did. This is off the centerpiece of a UFO, and this is the sun. They're honoring the sun, and this is a star traveler, and he's giving him the knowledge of the earth to plant the seeds of humanity.
Wow.
And this is just an example of one of the paintings I did recently. And
incredible.
I like to take them from the ancient and then put them into the future, how I would see them in their natural habitat. This is the light language that is seen on a lot of the stones. Some refer to them as ideograms, and they tell the story of that piece in particular. And I like to put it in art form so people could see it.
Yeah, absolutely. And much like the artifacts themselves, it is the art that is conveying the message.
Right,
Once again, it's not like you have to be able to read or understand the language on it to understand what the piece is about.
Right. And I actually consider the greatest art teachers I've ever had in my life. Just being around them and being around their art has inspired me so much and opened up my pineal gland and the possibilities to art. And even like the jewelry, I love the jewelry aspects that they made. They made the best jewelry I've ever seen in my life. And even modern day jewelers haven't even thought of some of the concepts that the jewelry that we're seeing. So I like to replicate the jewelry and wear the jewelry, and I cast them out of silver, you know,
beautiful.
for people to wear to represent their artwork, because they put holes in all their jewelry as if they were meant to be worn in the future, like they wanted people to wear them.
Interesting.
So I figured I'd honor them by letting people have the opportunity to try and wear them to see if that does something for them.
Yeah.
Similar to the way people wear crosses and
Absolutely.
things, you know?
Absolutely, yeah. And now, this has, of course, influenced your art. How has it influenced you to take this art to other people?
This is actually my first time bringing it to other people other than Contact in the Desert, but I've been a recluse artist. Not a lot of people know about this art, so I've just kind of kept it to myself. I'm not in a hurry to share it or show it, so I'm just kind of backed up on all these things. And this is actually, I've been a recluse artist, so this is my first time just showing myself to the world, and we're speaking about it to the world for the first time. Because there's a lot of misinformation about this, and there's not a lot of real information. We've actually been there several times, and my friend Josh is the most knowledgeable on this subject. He's been there a lot longer, more than I have. And,
what are some of the things that you've learned from the artifacts as you've been examining them and really deep diving into them over the last few years?
They were many different types of species, and they were some of the greatest artists I've ever came across. And I
just want to show this one while you're talking.
This is an example of an ancient astronaut. Most of them come with UFOs, but this one was found alone without his spaceship. And he is just the perfect representation of what we call an ancient astronaut. And
Absolutely.
Then,
and I mean, as somebody who's done stonework before, things like that, the absolute precision to be able to dig that out and carve inside.
This is an example of a really fine UFO, and this one in particular has chambers in it, and on the outside there's thin layers of agate, and when you put a light through it, you can see the light shine through.
Wow.
The chambers, and this one almost is representative of what E.T. the movie's ship has. It has these little ridges around it, kind of like E.T. had on his ship.
That is so absolutely amazing. And once again, the detail in these carvings, the detail in this stuff is absolutely amazing, folks. It is gorgeous, gorgeous work. And once again, to see motifs from various cultures around the world represented in this is absolutely phenomenal.
Here is another example of a UFO. This is sort of like what Stephen Greer would consider the sport model.
Right.
It's a solid piece. You usually see depictions of 5 agate inlays on them. And then here it's like, there's a depiction of like, you can fly this inside your mind, you can go anywhere, is what I'm getting from this symbol here. And there's a lot to learn from these UFOs, and depictions of star maps and coordinates and other solar systems, or where they came from, the mechanics of UFOs, all found on the insides of these carved in symbolism.
And the fact that some of these UFOs actually are partial and open up and have a tiny being inside of them is so absolutely awesome. Oh, here's one right here.
Here's an example of one where the lid comes off and there's a little being in there. Sometimes there's families of 4 or 5, or sometimes there'll be a mummy in the middle with 2 beings looking over it, and I think that means they came to rescue that being and bring it back to their home planet out of respect. They didn't want their family members being found here on Earth at a later time.
No being left behind.
Yeah, so we see a lot of depictions of that, of them coming and getting their family members and bringing them back, because they once came here. Something happened to their planet, and they had to come here unexpectedly for a short amount of time until they could regroup and figure out where they were going next.
Yeah, Absolutely. Possibly. And once again, how has this, in addition to your art and bringing you back to home and back to root with that, how has this moved and changed you in your life?
Well, I could say they helped me manifest. I don't know why I feel like maybe they chose me or picked me. There's not a lot of people that know about this even really, and I don't know why. Maybe it's because of the DMT I used to do, and that I gave myself out. I built that temple for all, I did it for, humanity, and I didn't get any, I didn't know what I was getting out of that until I got into this. Maybe that was my reward for giving myself all those years. And they're like, here, look at this. And then my mind is blown every day. For 5 years, imagine like a child getting shown flashcards. I get shown flashcards every other day of these symbols. Whether I get them or not, I see them every day from several of the families. They're always sending me pictures, and so I'm always getting downloaded with all these cosmic symbols. And I could write many different books just about the symbols or the features,
you could write
the statistics, or
books about the artifacts,
the artwork,
that are just here.
all the different little features. Yeah,
Absolutely.
so many different things, and there's a lifetime of knowledge. And I would imagine 5-10 years from now, most of the world will know about these. They're going to spread from that mountain into the hands of the people, and then consciousness, they're going to spread just like that all across into town to city, and all across music festivals. They're going to be showing them to their friends, feeling the energy, and so then that's how it's going to spread from the grid of the mountain to the grid of the planet.
And it has been amazing to see the literal watershed of community that has been built over the last few years since the disclosure effort has begun.
Yes.
The conversations that have been open, the cross-community conversations between paranormal, cryptids, UFO, UAP. It's phenomenal to see the ties between all of these phenomena.
It is.
And to see that artifacts like these help tie them all together.
They do. They really do tie it together. Everything I've seen on Ancient Aliens, I've pretty much watched every Ancient Aliens episode religiously, and I see every little episode. There's something about these that these could tie together everything. I believe.
Incredible.
And one day we will. And the whole conference is lots of people will be doing talks about these, but here we are for our first time talking about them in the public for free. Giving out knowledge for free here at Stairway to the Stars on 11/11.
Exactly.
And I started my journey, I just want to show you this, on 11/11/11, 12 years ago today.
Wow.
So at Star Knowledge Conference, and I was a recluse artist then, and I put my art out just like I did now. It was just crop circles and sacred geometry. I didn't know about artifacts, but from here I am 12 years, from the Cuyahoga Pyramid to the Luxor Pyramid. It's a monumental moment for me in my spiritual journey.
Well, it's obvious that this stuff has changed you and moved you in very special ways, and it's always beautiful to me whenever I find any artist that comes back home to what they do.
Yes.
It took me a long time I was a recluse musician for a long time, and just in the last, I've been making therapy music for 20 years. Did not put it out till this year.
Nice.
Like it was just one of those, like, it's time.
It's time. That's what I felt. It's time. The universe was like, get out there and do it.
Exactly. So, and it's beautiful that something as deep as this is what drew you and moved you back to that.
It did. It is.
It took such a...
The passion is regaining and all
that
this
is truly beautiful, Anthony.
The love we're receiving from the community here.
Absolutely.
And we're blowing people's minds, and people are just like, oh
you
my
guys,
God, this
you
is
guys have
amazing.
been a kerfuffle of actions since y'all were like setting up the first case the other day, and it's been nonstop for 2 days. It's been awesome.
Yeah, it's
awesome to see you guys working it and really getting this information out there.
We love doing that. Thank you.
I'm looking forward to seeing the presentation. I'd like to have y'all on again and again to talk about this, because
we would love that.
the information locked in these stones is so absolutely amazing. It's great. Anthony, let everybody know where they can go to follow your art, where they can go to keep up with everything that is Anthony.
All right. I'm on Fabric of the Universe on Instagram, Anthony Mickel on Facebook, and I'm unlocking the secrets of the universe. And I'll be posting more about my art soon here.
Awesome. Anthony, thank you so much for your time again. I appreciate it. While you were online checking out Anthony's work, make sure to stop on by Curious Rome. CuriousRome.com is where you can find all the episodes. That's where you can like, follow, subscribe. That's where you can find all of the books and films from our guests. Stay tuned through these breaks, everybody. We will be back right after this with more coverage from Stairway to the Stars right here in Las Vegas, Nevada. Stay tuned.